listening to the Career Jump podcast. Insights, interviews, and success stories to inspire and give you the edge when you make your next career jump. Hosted by your career concierge, Andrew McCaskill.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the Career Jump podcast. I'm your host and career concierge, Andrew McCaskill. And we've got a very special episode lined up today because we're coming in for the second live episode. So as well as anyone who's listening back to this, there'll be other people joining us live. And I've got a very special guest lined up who is Penny Delve. So Penny's a business and career coach who combines positivity, psychology, possibility and potential. And let's welcome her in and say hello. How are you doing, Penny?
I'm good, thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hi. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I'm a business and career coach who is passionate about well-being. I say passionate, probably a bit more obsessed. And I like to help people improve their working life. So that could be changing jobs. It could be enhancing their current career, or it could be a business owner who needs more direction and accountability. But every time I work with somebody, my coaching style is always a very holistic and practical.
That sounds awesome. So tell us about how you got into that in the first place. What's your journey been like?
So my journey, and I do love hearing people's journey. So my journey is that I was in executive recruitment for 16 years, and 5 of those I was running my own recruitment business. And then I moved into coaching about 3 or 4 years ago after, unfortunately, my brother passed away. And it kind of gave me that wake up moment to stop waiting and actually embrace life and do something that I was really passionate about. And since that moment, I have nonstop invested in myself. So all around, coaching, hypnotherapy, positive psychology, mindfulness, the whole well-being piece, as well as the kind of, like I said, practical side of coaching as well.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear about your brother. I didn't realise that at all.
Thank you.
Good to see that you got some, momentum from that, I guess. Sometimes some of these things give us a perspective that we don't previously have, right?
Totally. And I think for me, it was about taking something positive from a tragedy. And, often you hear stories about people, they hit rock bottom and then they had this life experience or moment that changed everything. And I wouldn't say I hit rock bottom, but I was shaken up. And I think when you're shaken up, you see life differently. And for me, it was about seeing, how precious life is and how exciting life is and how much value and excitement there is from life. And really, you have so much potential inside yourself. And I use that energy to do something positive.
Well, commendable. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Whilst on that, so it's an interesting thing in terms of human nature. The amount of times you read about somebody who maybe has come back from cancer or has had some kind of major event, which has then sparked live life in a different way. Why as humans do we need these major events to drive that? Why can't we just look after ourselves and live the life to its fullest anyway, right? Like it's so...
Totally. I think sometimes people are sort of sleepwalking through their life. And I'm actually doing a talk next year called Wake Up to Your Courageous Career, because it was all about how we're sleepwalking through our job. And, it's Groundhog Day and we're doing the same things. And when you have something big happen in your life, it is that wake up moment because it shakes everything that you were familiar with. And, my passion now is to teach people you don't have to wait for something disastrous or tragedy or to hit rock bottom to make a change.
Yeah. Well, I hope that message cuts through because I think it's super, super important. So we always like to start with a bit of a quote. I wondered if you had a quote that's important to you or that you live by in some kind of way that you could share with the audience today.
Yeah, I've got quite a few quotes that I love, but mine is probably, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Because nothing in life is isolated. People often talk about work-life balance when it comes to careers, but I hate that term because your work is part of your life. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you're feeling crappy and lethargic, well, that's going to show up in your relationships and your work. If you're feeling energized and excited, then you're going to be more creative and positive. And so everything is a circle. So I'm always saying to people, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you invest in one area, you'll see that impact in all areas of your life, right?
I think so. Yeah. The idea of a work-life balance is a strange expression. We talk about work-life integration sometimes, which feels a little bit better to me, albeit it's a little bit mechanical. But
yeah,
I like your idea of everything being interconnected. That makes perfect sense.
totally. And I think, that it's that wholeness, you can't just have career sitting here and outside life sitting here and money here and relationships here. It is that whole piece, that holistic piece. And hence why that's my approach in my coaching.
No, good for you. Okay, very good. I like that tip. That works. And so what tips would you have? There's a lot of people at the moment, obviously, who are in transition and are not in post and are trying to find a new role or have got some kind of, some big challenges in their career at the moment. What kind of advice would you give to people in that kind of situation, Penny?
I think it's always about breaking something down into achievable goals. It can feel really overwhelming when you're having, you're challenged on changing jobs or you're feeling stuck. And it's always about what's that one tiny thing you can do? What's that one little step, that one little action that you can do that's going to bring you closer to your goal? So is it spending 5 minutes on your CV? Is it actually not looking at the job search and doing something completely different just to clear your mind? So really just scraping everything back to making it as simple as possible. So setting yourself up for success by breaking it down into those baby steps.
Yeah, that's right. It can feel overwhelming otherwise, can't it? The large task.
Totally. And I think we're programmed and our brain is set up and wired that anything too overwhelming, our brain will kick in with, oh, that's too scary and hard. And it will bring you back to being small and safe and hide in the cave. But we're not cavemen anymore. So we don't need to hide in the cave. But, it's that whole thing, someone said, I'm going to run a marathon. Well, it's too overwhelming. So you think you can't do it. But if someone said, I'll teach you to run a mile, then that sounds achievable. So it's all about those goals, making them really, really simple.
Yeah. And those habits that compound over time, I guess.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, habits as well. We can get into habits in the way we think and the way we act. And if those are working against us, then you're going to have a bit of a crappy time and you're not going to get the results that you want.
Yeah. So let's talk about habits then, if that's because that's a topic that's of real interest to me. I read Atomic Habits by James Clear, which was a really cool book. Highly recommended to anybody joining us that you pick up that one. But what's your take on how we can develop, better habits that serve us in a better way?
The habits, yeah. First of all, read that book. Absolutely. I read it in the summer and I wrote notes in the margin and took loads and loads on that. It's a really easy book to read. I think sometimes people think these books are like scary and too tricky to read, but that one is so easy, right? And habits are, it's a big topic, right? You could do a whole podcast just talking about habits, but I think, again, it's about making it easy and achievable. So one of the habits I would say to someone is make your bed in the morning and drink a glass of water first thing. Those are the two things that I would say are an amazing way to start your day. And the more little habits you have, and you read that in the book, they all start to affect each other. And you can get into bad habits as well. So it's kind of identifying and being aware of what your habits are. And that can be, an eye-opener when you have that awareness.
Yeah. So I've got an app called Streaks at the moment, which is not... Have you heard about this one? It's not. It's nothing to do with running up and down the street. It's an app whereby you can upload 6 habits, right?
Right.
And then every day, it's as simple as you just press on that habit once you've completed it, and the more days in a row you do, it counts it, right? So you get a streak of right. You have done 10,000 steps for 7 days in a row. You've played with the children for 5 days in a row. You've read 10 pages of a book, whatever it might be. Yeah, whatever the 6 things are. But it's that kind of gamification of if you've done it 6 days in a row, you don't want to go back to start on 0. And so it really helps you kind of zone in on something and tick it off the list. So I'm finding that quite useful.
Yeah, I love the idea of that. And I think you're right, Andrew, that when you do a habit a couple of times, I think they say it takes 90 days to habits to be sort of ingrained into what you do, then it just becomes the norm. So if that is the making your bed and having the glass of water, and then that leads to another powerful habit, which is reading 3 pages of a book that's going to help you in your career, and then that leads to you doing something else, that the more you do, it's that catalyst effect. But when you look back and you've done that consistency, then you don't want to kind of break that. So you're more inclined to follow through and do that habit again, right?
Exactly. Self-reinforcing. And you just feel better about yourself as well. I think
Yeah, totally.
which helps for sure.
Yeah. We all want that.
Yeah, we definitely do. We definitely do. So the other thing I was keen to talk to you about was, obviously you ran your own recruitment company. You're now very much running your own business on the career coaching and business coaching side. Talk to me about business ownership as a career choice, right? So we're seeing quite a lot of people, particularly in the current environment, who are saying, well, I can't find the work that I want, so I'm going to create my own thing. There's a lot of people going down that route. So would you like share some of your journey with us, what you see as the pros and cons of that route, why you decided to do it? Just any insights that spring to mind would be great.
Yeah, so I think go for it. I think, you've got nothing to lose by setting up a business if it's something that you're already good at. And I think mainly people don't, because there's fear saying, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What will people think? All those sort of limiting beliefs that hold people back. But I would just say flip it around. What if it does work? What if people do think you're amazing? What if you have loads of success? And actually, again, when you flip things round and it starts to make your brain think in a much more positive way, you're more likely to be successful. It is a journey, though. When you're running your own business and you do set it up, it is a roller coaster. And I think I love it when people put diagrams and memes up of people going, I'm loving it, I'm hating it, I'm loving it, I'm hating it, because it really is a journey. And it's not magic, it's not all easy, but it's really, really fulfilling. And I think that's the main attraction for people. You're in control, you've got the freedom and the flexibility, and that can give you so much fulfillment and give you more joy in your life as well.
Yeah, I agree. And you are ultimately empowered and accountable for the decisions that you make. And I think that was always the hardest thing for me working for other people, was not feeling like I was empowered to make the decisions that I believed was the right thing to do. And that's confronting now, right? Because I've got no one else to go.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing, because I do coach business owners a lot, and a lot of the problems is the accountability. They're like, yay, I'm in charge now. And then they kind of go into a comfort zone because there's no one chasing them up or telling them what to do. So having a coach to hold someone accountable is actually quite powerful, and people need that. We think we want to be our own boss, but there's another downside. It can be quite lonely as well. So it's always important, if you're setting up your own business, to get the support around you and have positive people around you and people who believe in you. But absolutely, you can do it. There's no reason why one single person cannot set up a business and make it work. 100% believe that.
Yeah, and with LinkedIn and other channels, you can market yourself for next to nothing as well, which is
totally
cool. Very cool. So let's go back to the executive search and recruitment days, if we can.
Yeah.
Talk to me about interviewing, right? So lots of people have a bit of a fear around this. None of us really like going in and being assessed in an interview situation. So what would your advice be to the people that are tuning in live or the people listening to the podcast around the whole topic of interviewing?
So, wow, again, another big topic. And I think with interviews, it's all about preparation and self-belief again. And it's something when I work with someone, when they're preparing for interviews, is to do a lot of work around their beliefs. And I do some hypnotherapy with people as well. And I think it's all about the preparation and feeling confident. And when you're in there, I keep saying preparation, but it really is about the preparation. And I think if you do the work, you get some extra support, then you can absolutely nail an interview. But I think sometimes we do need the extra support to be able to have that edge.
Hey everybody, it's Andrew here. Just wanted to very briefly interrupt this podcast episode to tell you a little bit more about our Career Jump Club. So our Career Jump Club was created to help job seekers understand what they want and how to get it, right? So becoming a club member is a great move if you're looking to get the clarity and confidence in order to secure your next role. With the membership, you get a number of different things. So first thing you get is access to our online platform, which has over 30 videos, 40, 50 different templates, workbooks, and it takes you through everything from sort of understanding what you want to how to position your CV and LinkedIn, how to interview, how to close offers and negotiate better salaries, a full end-to-end job search course effectively for senior leaders. So you get that, you get a fortnightly group coaching call, which is with me and with the other members, where we bounce around best practice, share slide decks, share techniques, and share the latest data on what's working for people. And you get to, most importantly, become part of our closed LinkedIn group and our closed community. And in there is where the magic often happens, because you get people referring each other into opportunity, supporting each other, and just sharing. And that's what it's all about. So if you're financially able and you'd like to invest in your job search, head on over to www.careerjump.com, all one word, /club, and you'll find the landing page and come and give it a go. We'll see you in there. Anyway, back to the pod.
I'm fascinated by the idea of hypnotherapy prior to interview. Tell me a bit more about that.
So something I do with people for an interview is something called the mental rehearsal, which is also known as brain sculpturing. And it touches on hypnotherapy as well. And it's an exercise that top athletes use around the world, where, for example, ahead of a big race, they're going to run the 100 meters, they would visualize themselves doing the race. But it's not just about the visualization. They would imagine themselves going onto the track, and they would tap into all their senses. So they would feel the rubbery track beneath their fingers. They would hear the roar of the crowd. They would feel the wind or the sun on their skin. They would, everything that they would see around them. And it would be that whole full senses that they would tap into as they then go through the race. So I would do the same thing with somebody in hypnosis for an interview, where we go right into that interview, but we use every single sense. And the more you practice that, the more your brain thinks it's a reality. So when you go into that situation, your brain's like, well, I've been here before, I've done this before. And it helps people perform really, really well.
Yeah, I love that. I know some of our clients imagine before they go into the interview that the interviewer is going to really like them, and that they're going to like them back, and that it's going to be a positive experience. And just by imagining that that's the case, they tend to walk in with a smile on their face and tend to lean towards liking them. And, for an interviewer, it's very hard not to like a candidate that likes you, right? It's
totally, yeah. And that all goes back to that mindset stuff again, and flipping it around by saying, oh, I'm really scared about an interview. You flip it around and go, I'm really excited about the interview. And immediately you've got different energy about you. And that's a great example, Andrew, that you go in there thinking, well, I'm gonna love the interviewer and they're gonna love me. And automatically you're giving out that energy. So it's all around mindset, I think, with an interview. Yes, the preparation, but the mindset is really, really key.
I totally agree. And how do you think people should decide which jobs they go for, or how they map out their career? Like, I know you work with a lot of people on designing their path and working out what they really want. Are you happy to, again, that's a whole podcast in its own. So I'm trying to get 10, 15 podcasts worth out of you in 30, 40 minutes. But are you happy to talk a bit on that in terms of how, people should look to plan their career out, what type of things they should choose to go for, how they should work out what they want?
Yeah. I think when you're planning your career, it's all about, what do you really want to do? Are you doing or going for a job that you want, or that somebody else expects you to do, or that you think you should be doing because it looks good? To find something that's going to be fulfilling, but also that's working to your strengths. Another exercise I do with people is their personal SWOT. And people sometimes forget about the superpowers they have and the strengths that they have and things that they're really good at. And they come out of the exercise and think, wow, I'm actually really good. I'm like, yes, you are. You're brilliant. And I think it's about tapping into those things that bring you joy, your strengths, your flow, your energy, and then putting that into a job search which is going to tick all those boxes for you. So not just a job that's paying 20 grand more or 10 grand more, or it's at a company that sounds good, but just connecting with something that's with your values and your strengths, and a company that's aligned to your values as well, because that is really important. You're going to be spending so much time in a company that it has to be in alignment with who you are. Otherwise, it's just going to feel like a difficult journey.
Yeah, very much so. I'm sure that's the cause of a lot of the stress in the workplace, to be honest. There's the wrong people in the wrong seats. Some absolute gold in there, Penny. Absolute gold. By the way, people who are tuning in live, I've got a bunch of questions to ask Penny, as you can tell already. I'm trying to rack her brains as much as possible for this afternoon. But if there's anything in particular you'd like to ask, just put it in the comments and I'll try and get to you before the end of the broadcast. So also back to your headhunter days, if we can, whilst we've got you. what was the best way for a kind of a candidate to approach you? Like, how did you most like job seekers or people in transition to work with you whilst you were a headhunter? Talk to me about that.
Well, I always used to say to people, and I say this to people now, if you're making an application to a job or a recruiter, then always try and find a name of somebody and actually make a phone call. People sometimes think, well, I've sent a CV, and then they run off and do something else, but it's much more powerful to speak to somebody. So I would always say to somebody, and when people would approach me, if someone made a direct email to me or made that phone call when I was in my recruiter days, I'd always make time for that person, because they stood out against hundreds of other people making applications that they'd actually followed up directly with a phone call or a separate email rather than just making the application. So I think going the extra mile is really important, and that stood out for me as a recruiter, but also building rapport and having a relationship and, listening and having a bit of fun with it at the same time. I think we've all had, recruitment days, there's nightmare clients and nightmare candidates, but you don't want to be a nightmare candidate. You want to be one that people want to help and want to talk to. So I think, building relationships and making that direct contact would be my 2 bits of advice.
Yeah, I think that's really, really great. And you could feel it when you're in search. There's a big difference between the candidates that see your value as the executive search partner that they're operating with and those that see you as a pain. Or someone that they think shouldn't be in the way of getting them to the client or whatever it might be. And just that little bit of engagement and respect just goes such a long way in how you then sell that candidate onto the end client, right? It's human nature.
Totally. That's that cheesy line, people buy people first, but it's so true. And if you're representing somebody, you want to have a relationship with that recruiter or headhunter that they like you. It goes back to what you're saying about the interview. If the interviewer likes you or the recruiter likes you, they're gonna talk about you in a much more positive way.
They absolutely are. So we've got our first question in from the live viewers, which is around interview fatigue. So how do you get over interview fatigue? So I guess they're talking about people that have had a few interviews and are just burning out on it. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, gosh, I think take a break if you can. That goes back to my wellbeing piece, that I would just try and look at what I'd learn and get the positives from all those interviews. Maybe write them down and say, look, what have I learned from these interviews? What did go well? And then, take a break and invest in some meditation or do something different or just go for a walk. Any time when you can just have a break from something and switch off is always really healing and nourishing. But always look at the positives. Even if you had a really crappy interview, there'll be something that went well. And it's about focusing on that.
Well, the fact you got picked for interview out of hundreds of applicants is you're already in the top 2% or something. If you
exactly,
can get in the room, right? That's good. Yeah, like that. Give yourself a bit of space, gang. I think that's the key on that. Glenn's in. How are you, sir? Penny, has ghosting always been around, or is this a recent phenomena, or has it got worse recently? So this idea of applying and never hearing anything, or interviewing and never hearing anything back, that's even worse, isn't it, that one? But what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I hate this. In my recruiter days, I always got back to everybody. Like I wanted to look after everyone and, make sure everybody felt safe and happy and got their feedback. And I would fight to get feedback for my candidates. I think sometimes people ghost because they're scared of giving bad news or they just get busy doing other things. But actually, the right thing to do is always to tell someone where they stand. And yeah, has ghosting got worse? I don't know. I've seen quite a few people talk about ghosting, that it has got worse this year. And I know it's awful. I always say to someone, if it was you on the other foot, you'd want to know what's going on. So with clients who, is anyone listening who's a client who's hiring, let people know what's going on. Because if it was you, you'd want to know what's going on. So I hope that answers your question, but I don't agree with it. But I think maybe it has got worse, which is frustrating.
Yeah, I think just due to sheer volume, to be honest with you, this year, that's definitely affected it.
Probably.
Any excuse after interview. It's just
not after an interview. Absolutely, I'm really passionate about this. After an interview, there's absolutely no excuse to give somebody a one-liner on an email about what's going on. Definitely.
Or the one about, there were other candidates that were better suited. Like,
no, please.
Hence why I haven't got a job offer in my hand. So yeah, there's a load of stuff that goes on there. So yeah, I think we're all on the same page on that one, Penny, for sure. Stacia, thank you for joining us this afternoon. And you've put a really good question forward for the podcast. So how do you master the virtual interview? What are they looking for aesthetically as well as in general? Any thoughts on that one, Penny?
The virtual interview, yeah. I always say to people, there's a difference between face-to-face, on the phone, and virtual. I think with the virtual interview, it's about making sure you've got a quiet space, you've got good lighting. And good lighting doesn't need to be some professional podcasting ring light. You can just be in front of a window and make sure you've not got a dark face, you've got light onto your face. So, and clear the clutter behind you, natural light onto your face, look at the camera, and act almost as if you would face-to-face for a virtual interview. It's all about lighting.
All about the light. I agree with you on that. I think when the light's behind you and you get backlit, it's
just a silhouette. No one wants to interview a silhouette, do they?
Yeah, you're like a Bond villain. So, hi, Andrew and Penny. Hi, LinkedIn user. Sorry, I can't see your name when it's up on the screen. But when I connect with a recruiter or a talent acquisition head, what would you recommend I talk to them with, or how do I approach them? What do you reckon about that one?
Just to go back to lighting, I realise my lighting is actually not that great right now. So let's look at the question. When I connect with a recruiter or talent acquisition head on LinkedIn, what would you recommend I talk with them? How do I pitch my job search?
They just connected with you on LinkedIn when you were a headhunter. What should they send you? What should they say to you? How should they get on your radar after they've connected?
I think just be honest, right? I always think being transparent, no beating around the bush and being weird. Just be honest. Say, hey, I'm connected with you. I'm looking to get a job in, in whatever it is. Can we have a chat? What's the best way? Can you give me any advice? Most people love giving advice. So just asking a few questions like that. If someone said to me, what advice can you give me? Then I'd immediately probably answer the question, give them some advice. Can I have, it might be send your CV to me. It might be let's book a call. But definitely ask questions. I think that's always, rather than just saying a statement, ask questions, get a conversation going.
Yeah, the advice tip's lovely. There's nobody that doesn't like being asked for advice. It's a compliment.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a really, really nice one. Lots of people in the chat talking about the painful experiences with ghosting, which is, seems to be a pretty common theme. And it was Daniel, whose name we couldn't see. So hello, Daniel. Thanks for clearing that up for us. The other question I was going to ask you was around books. So you've managed to, with your 4 Ps that I read out at the start, your positivity, psychology, possibility, and potential. There's a lot there, right?
They're my favourite. The alliteration.
Yeah, can't go wrong. Mnemonics and alliteration, never a bad day for it. So in terms of those 4, you would have read a lot of books. We spoke about Atomic Habits earlier, but what other books do you really rate in the field of mindset and well-being and all of the other stuff?
So books, definitely Atomic Habits by James Clear, but I also there's another book called The Kaizen Way by Dr. Robert Mora. It's a really thin book. It's really easy to read, and it's all about improving everything by, 1% or even less than 1%. It's all about, as I said earlier, about stripping everything back, making it really, really simple. So I definitely recommend that one. Atomic Habits, definitely. Wellbeing wise, I recommend Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. So he's written some books. One's called The 4-Pillar Plan and one's called The Stress Solution. Again, easy books to read, just give so much information and guidance and tips around well-being, which will absolutely impact your job search and your interviews and how you show up day to day if you're nailing your well-being as well.
Yeah, he's got a good podcast as well.
Yeah, he has. He's got a brilliant podcast.
So that's a very, very good tip. Thank you. We very much like that one. And what common mistakes do you think you see people making from a career perspective?
Well, that's quite a big question. With regards to CVs or just their jobs, or
in terms of their careers, their careers, their jobs.
I think the biggest mistake people make is probably staying somewhere too long and then getting stuck, and then they're afraid to leave, and then that just brings up all these other limiting beliefs about, well, I'm safe here, this is easy, but they've plateaued, they're not learning. So I think that's probably a big one. Or probably skipping.
Why does the job-based Stockholm syndrome kind of kick in if you're unhappy? What do you think keeps people there?
People want to feel safe, and it goes back to that primal instinct that we are programmed, and our brain is to stay safe, small, and stay in the cave and all that sort of stuff, where when we branch out, we step into our comfort zone, it feels scary, but the scary can be exciting. It's about flipping it around again. When you change jobs, you get energized, you get new people in your life, you get new motivation, fresh perspective, you're learning, so your brain's activated, and that infiltrates into all areas of your life. So I know it's been a difficult year for job searching this year, but on the whole, if you are able to change jobs, you've been somewhere a long time, then there's so much positivity from making that change, even if it does feel a bit scary.
Absolutely. As you say, look, people on the market don't have that opportunity, but if you are in post and you're genuinely unhappy, I think you do have to break out. I heard a lovely quote, I think it was on Stephen Bartlett's podcast, which was that his biggest frustration with people is that they choose definite misery over temporary uncertainty. And he feels like that's absolutely
Totally. Yeah. Definite misery, because it's certain and people like certainty. We're wired to like certainty. Uncertainty feels scary, but actually uncertainty can bring so much more joy.
I agree. And it's always interesting in relationships. And I think a lot of relationships are like this, whereby you have one who's really into uncertainty and one who craves certainty. And
yeah, that's me and my husband.
and me and my wife. And how you try and join that up is always interesting. I think probably it gets you to a happy medium somewhere along the line. So Matthew Embleton, thanks for the question this afternoon. Last sort of 5 or 10 minutes, guys and girls, if you want to put a question in, we'll try and get to it for you before we wrap. So Matthew's question: should you connect with the job poster prior to applying or after? And should you actually apply to the job, or do you think it's better to try and connect with the individual first? What's your thoughts on that?
I would do everything. I think go the extra mile. I would apply for the job. If it was me going for a job tomorrow, I would apply for the job. I would connect with the recruiter. I would ring the recruiter. I'd be really, really proactive. And it pays off being proactive.
Yeah, I totally agree. Particularly in commercial roles, right? It always amazed me when we were hiring for our recruitment teams or hiring for salespeople, the amount of applicants who didn't pick up the phone and try and influence the process. And you're kind of like,
oh yeah.
Like, I always liked it if a candidate phoned. I don't know about you, but when I was running the recruitment teams, if a candidate phoned me and pitched themselves into the role, they pretty much got an interview every time, I think.
Well, totally, because it makes them stand out. So I was saying before, I'd always get back to somebody who made a direct approach, whether it was through email or the phone, because they stand out and they're in front of you. So absolutely, do everything you can, connect, phone, maybe not turn up on their doorstep, but, everything else.
If anything you can't get arrested for, go for it. Let's draw the line there for now. So Randall, how are you, mate? A good question coming in from Randall, which is, what are your thoughts on the ATS, the applicant tracking systems? Is it a big thing? Is it a big consideration for job seekers? Do you have a view on this one?
I don't have much experience with that, really, but I think, if it's part of the process, it's a part of the process, really. So I don't think, if there's a way around it, then, as I say, always be proactive, always be thinking outside the box. There's another career coach who tells people to actually put their CV in an envelope and post it on to like managing directors. If there's any different way and you can be creative, do it. So
yeah, we've done that. We've also been sending videos, candidate video, which is cool. The voice notes thing works really well.
Voice notes, yeah, I love voice notes. And do you know what? I use voice notes, and people always say, "Oh, it was so lovely to hear your voice." And I think that is something that can be used so easily. And again, people might have a bit of fear around it, but no, you can re-record it. That's the joy of voice notes. If you mess it up, you just start again.
Yeah, you totally start again. And it's much harder to ignore someone's voice than it is a written note, isn't it, in many ways?
Yeah, and you hear so much more. There's so much more energy in a voice, and it's so personal. So definitely voice note people.
So here's an interesting one. So Alex is asking you, how do you get around the fact that you've been at one business for a long time and you now feel like that's hampering your job search? So I guess it's the question of appearing institutionalized would be the problem.
Yeah, I think when a question like that might come up, it's definitely worth preparing an answer. And it's good to answer that without specifics and having the CV and then the job. But I think as long as you can find a reason why you're interested in that opportunity and really be specific about it. I always say to people when I'm career coaching is that What are the results that you made? What was the impact you had? What are the specifics that you have achieved? And if you can then put that in to communicate that to somebody in an interview, then they can see the value that you're bringing. It doesn't really matter if you've been somewhere 100 years or 2 years. If they know you can bring value to the role and get them results, then, and you focus on that, that should be enough.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And they're looking for retention and they're looking for loyalty. So if it's positioned in the right way, I think that's the other thing to think about, Alex, is to make sure that you're breaking down under that job. If you've had a number of different jobs within the same company or a number of different projects, so they can see that you've progressed into different things rather than sitting in the same seat for a long period of time. So I think that's the way to go. And yeah, reframe it as a positive. Talk about transferable skills. The amount of time that you've been there, I don't see as being a major issue, and blow up the bomb if it is. So what about you personally? I'm interested to hear, what are you looking to add next to your own skill set? What's, from a personal career perspective, what's the next skill you want to develop in 2021 as we head into the new year?
Oh, that's a big question. Well, I'm always working on new things. So I'll probably be launching some new group programs and a membership next year, just so I can help people at all different levels and just continue, working on my coaching and my hypnotherapy, because that's an evolving journey in itself. Every good coach should have a coach. So I invest in myself and develop myself and my personal development constantly. And I love doing that.
Yeah, as you say, it's an ongoing process. It's not something you just learn and it's done, is it? No,
I wish it was. I wish it was that easy.
It's a living, breathing thing. Okay, that's cool. And where can people find you if they want to connect with you, if they want to follow up with you? Where's the best way to reach out with you?
So here on LinkedIn, send me a message. You can voice note me. Yeah, just connect in any way. And my phone number's there if you want to ring me. I'm happy anyway to be connected with. So maybe not on my front door or abseiling through my roof.
But no, maybe not that. As we said, keep it legal, but any kind of message or email or anything along those lines, you're happy to.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
Well, look, I think we've covered some really good ground there. 35 minutes of power, some live questions. I've asked you 10, pretty big questions. You managed to get them all in a succinct way. So thanks so much for sharing some of your thoughts and insights. It's been a really, really good session.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrew. It's been brilliant. And this is my first live on LinkedIn, so it's been very exciting.
Well, you've nailed it. So well done. And we'll catch up again soon. Thank you. And thanks all for joining. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
You've been listening to the Career Jump podcast with Andrew McCaskill. For more resources and information, just head over to the Career Jump website at www.execcareerjump.com to supercharge your job search and start making moves. Let's get to work.